Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Christina and it's actually been quite some time since I filmed a sit-down video. I'm actually dabbling a little more into doing like project vlogs and just generally like crafty vlogs. So yeah, if you're interested in those as well, you can check out my channel. But otherwise, we traveled to Japan in the beginning of the year for 2 months. So we were in Japan from the middle of January until the middle of March. And of course, I had to bring some knitting. And actually, all of my finished projects today are the ones I finished in Japan. And then I have, I think, 3 works in progress. And I'm not sure if I will dabble into talking about my plans afterwards. I do have quite set plans, but I will get to that later. For now, what I'm wearing is actually a self-drafted piece. It's a kind of zip-up sweater or cardigan, if you will, and it's knit out of cotton yarn. I think I knit the whole thing on 4mm needles, and it's in 1x1 broken rib stitch. It's just a raglan, a little bit of short row shaping, and quite a thick raglan line. And in the end, I had some issues figuring out the neckline, and I just did a neckline with short rows as well. So I actually have the video on my channel. I actually have a video on my channel, the one where I'm finishing all of my projects before my trip to Japan, and where I talk a little bit more about this project, since it was already a whip, and I really wanted to finish it before going to Japan for 2 months. So I have this whole video where I try to clear all of my needles, so you can get a little bit more insight there. And for now, I think I will just jump right into my finished objects. The first finished object, actually there is a theme with my finished objects. My sister is due in the beginning of May, so any minute now, so I really wanted to knit a baby set, more or less, for my first nephew, like my first, how do you call it, like blood-related nephew. And the first thing I did were these pants. I'll try to, I hope they fit in the frame. So these are just like plain stockinette pants with short rows to shape the back for like diapers and stuff. And this is knit out of, all the baby knits are made out of Drops Baby Merino. I think this was the color chocolate. And do I have it here? No, I think my mom still has it. This pattern was out of a book that I have. My sister actually gifted me this really cute book for like baby knits, and yeah, sadly it's downstairs. So the book is mostly like for sadness yarn yarn, and yeah, I'm very happy how they turned out. The only modification I think I did was like the bind off, because somehow my bind off, even like my tubular bind off, tends to be quite tight. So just to be sure for the baby like legs, so it doesn't like cinch in too much, I did this stretchy bind off. I'm not sure how it's called. I just looked up a tutorial on YouTube and followed it. It's not the prettiest edge like compared to tubular bind off, but I think for the practicability it's better. Yeah, I cast these on before going to Japan, so I had almost probably like the top part done before going to Japan, so I only did the legs in Japan. And with this yarn, like this, sorry, I think my pants are quite loud, but I'm too lazy to change them. Also, the sun is going down, so I'm on a tight schedule here. Yeah, my initial plan for this yarn was I actually bought 5 skeins of this yarn to make just a cardigan. They have these cute little like clay apple buttons, which I wanted to add to have like this very autumnal baby cardigan. But I figured that I prefer these really playful things for like a little bigger children, or especially with like buttons, so like the choking hazard gets a little less, I think. So I was more so thinking about doing the cardigan for about a 1-year-old, and I wanted to make the set smaller initially. As you might be able to tell, these are quite big. In the end, I decided to do the 9 to 12 months old size for everything, which kind of, I could have stick to my original plan, but nevertheless, I'm very happy how these turned out. And the yarn really, I kind of feeling it for the first time again. The yarn really like softens with the blocking. Oh, one thing just to note, this yarn, there's this thing with a specific twist of yarn which I don't really like, is when like one column of the knit stitch looks kind of like straight while the other has like this distinct V shape. So it kind of doesn't look as, it looks kind of stripier, or like the vertical lines are like more prominent than normally. So that's not my favorite type of twist in the yarn. Anyways, after I finished these, and these were knit on 2.5 for the ribbing and 3mm needles for the main part. And then I did this Baby Bear Bonnet by Pernille Larsen for Knitting for Olive in the same yarn. And I'm pretty sure I knit this on 3mm as well, just because I only had like 3 pairs of needles with me. And yeah, I did the 1x1 rib edge just to match the pants, and it turned out so adorable. I think originally it calls for 3.5mm needles, so I knit either the biggest size or the second to biggest size, I'm not sure. It will be in my Ravelry notes though, just to get like a more, like to be sure about the fit more, since I size down on my needles and I am generally a relatively tight knitter. And the last thing I knit for my nephew, I started in Japan, but I finished it here back in Germany. And it's the Baby Storm sweater by PetiteKnit. I think this is the first PetiteKnit thing that I like, pattern that I finished. I will get to it later, but I actually had a little bit of a PetiteKnit streak for the first time. So I started another project earlier, but I didn't finish it yet. So this is my first finished PetiteKnit pattern. And yeah, it's also in the Drops Baby Merino, but I'm not sure about the color, because actually this color my mom ordered it for her project, but in the end she decided on another yarn and I kind of took the remainders of it. I did not hide these ends yet because the neckline looks a little tight, I think, so I just figured I will leave it like this, and once the baby is big enough to try it on, we will try it on, and if it's too tight I will just redo the neckline. But yeah, I think this was a very fun knit. Like, I love this stripey, like everybody else, like these stripes of different textures. I have to say it took a lot longer than anticipated for it being a baby knit, but I'm also will note that I made like the second to largest size or something like that again, I think. The only thing I have to say, I was a little bit disappointed because I could have figured out a like very basic drop shoulder thing for a baby myself, but I kind of anticipated PetiteKnit to have a little bit of shaping, like short row shaping or like casting on stitches underneath the arms or something like that for the baby sweater as well, but it didn't have anything like this. The only shaping basically you do is like underarm decreases and the neckline shaping, and also the underarm decreases are like not really written out. They are very like decrease every X round. It's not in pattern basically, so you have to figure out that part as well. So yeah, that was a little bit like not disappointing. It wasn't the end of the world. Still, I didn't have to figure out like the number of stitches or anything, but just a little thing that I kind of expected differently. And also there was one little annoyance in the pattern for me. It's a minor thing, but at one point like the pattern says to repeat like this, like these, I don't know, I don't remember it all, but I think maybe it was like a 4-row repeat or something, and then it said repeated X amount of times for like every different size and different number, but for like the size I knit and then another size it said like repeat this like this repeat for 0 times. So I only read the first part. I assumed I knitted once, at least once, so I knitted once, and then I saw, okay, it says 0 times, so I had to frog it back. It's a minor thing, but I think there are different patterns that do it better with like saying like for sizes 1 to 5, for example, continue here, and for the other sizes skip the step. I think that would be more like intuitive for me. But anyways, it was a very nice pattern. I had a lot of fun doing it, and I think it turned out like the cutest little thing. I'm not the biggest fan of the Storm sweater. I definitely prefer the Ingrid, but for babies, it's maybe the other way around. So these were all of my finished. Oh, that's a lie. Before doing the sweater, I actually did a second one of the baby bear bonnet. It was almost exactly the same, except I did the moss stitch kind of edging, and I did it on 4mm needles. As I said, I only had like 3 pairs of needles with me, so 4 and 3, and I decided to do the 4mm needles because we got the news that our friend who we visited in Japan, that she is expecting as well, like a month later than my sister. So I had a little bit of the brown yarn left over, so I just knit her baby another baby bear bonnet as well. Yeah. So these were all of my finished objects for now. And then I will jump into works in progress. And I will start with the one that's furthest along. As I said, I was in a PetiteKnit I'm on a PetiteKnit streak. So this was the initial piece that I started as my first PetiteKnit pattern. This is the Maggie cardigan. And I started this, I think, somewhere maybe in September or October of last year, but it is quite a small gauge, and I definitely wasn't a monogamous knitter. the last couple of months. So yeah, it's almost finished now. I only have the neck ribbing left to do, so that's a little awkward to show you, but I did half of the neckband and I will finish it today. I also already bought the buttons and everything. But yeah, this will be definitely a finished object in the next one. For this, I wanted to keep it as close to the like pattern as possible, but I ended up doing quite a few modifications, and mostly the needle size and the button band. So for the needle size, I am quite, as I said, I am quite a tight knitter, so I basically always have to go up a size for almost everything. So the Maggie cardigan is normally knit on 3.5 millimeter needles, and I knit the whole body on 4 millimeter needles. I did do a gauge swatch first, though. It's not like I didn't just assume it. But since I finished like the body in Japan and I only had my 3 millimeter needles with me, I did the ribbing on 3 millimeters as it says. I would have done 3.5 if I was at home, probably. And as you can see, it does, because of this, it does cinch in quite a bit. But also I know my ribbing just generally cinches in quite a bit before blocking. So yeah, that's that's one main modification that I did. I also knit the cardigan quite a bit shorter before doing the ribbing. So I had one store-bought cardigan at the time, and I measured the length of that because I really like how it sits. It sits more like the ribbing hits me at the waist. And I don't like don't generally like cardigans that are too long. And so, but that cardigan I think was like 42 or something centimeters before the ribbing, and the PetiteKnit pattern was something like 52 centimeters before starting the ribbing, something like that. I'm not sure, for my size anyways. And in the end, I decided to do something in between. I think in the end, I did like something like 47 centimeters before starting the ribbing, like measured from the neck, like back neck. And yeah, for the yarn, I'm using this cone yarn from Hamburger Wollfabrik. It's just this yarn store in Hamburg that sells cone yarns mostly. And this is I'm pretty sure this was a 80% merino and 20% angora mix. I bought this quite at the beginning of my knitting journey, and I don't know, this yarn goes such a long way. I knit a whole cabled half fisherman rib cardigan out of this, and I only bought enough, I wanted to buy one sweater quantity, but in the end, as I said, I got one half a shaman's rib cabled cardigan out of this. I got the second cardigan out of this, and I still have enough left to do something with it. I'm not sure. Yeah, but I wasn't sure if I will be doing short sleeves or long sleeves. I always wanted a short sleeved kind of fluffy pinkish knit top. But I also thought that I would probably get more wear out of a long sleeve. But in the end, I decided to just go for it, do what I want to do. And I also bought like 2 store-bought thin cardigans, so I am kind of set in that department for now. I don't really need a cardigan, a long-sleeved one, so yeah, I decided to just do this. I also bought these like leather buttons, or I should tell the story. I bought buttons off of Etsy because they looked very nice. I really wanted to use dark wood buttons for this, like dark brown wood buttons. I'm just too lazy to show them to you, but when the picture was like very even dark wood buttons, but in the end when they arrived off of Etsy, like the middle was light colored and only the outside and like the elevated parts were burnt dark, so it was very two-toned and it didn't really fit the vibe I was going for, so I ended up just going to the local craft store and picking up the best buttons that I could get, and it turned out to be leather buttons. And they weren't cheap, like not the most expensive buttons, but they weren't cheap either, but I think they looked good once I laid them out, so this will be a finished object today, and then I will block it. Continuing with my PetiteKnit streak, I also have a second PetiteKnit pattern on my needles right now, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to tell, but this is going to be the Sophie hood. I'm a little bit more than halfway done right now. So I had this yarn lying around for almost like for 1.5 years now, I think. And yeah, I won this yarn from a knit along that I participated in, hosted by What Mariel Made, and I forgot the other handle, but they hosted the like this knit along in 2023, and I won it, and I was very happy and excited. And the prize was 2 skeins of a yarn from Tante Malo, which is a small Swedish hand dyer. And then I could just choose two balls, whatever I liked. And I made the mistake to get 2 worsted weight balls. At the time, I kind of enjoyed working with thicker yarn, or I don't know why I went for worsted instead of DK. I'm not sure, but if I went for DK, I would have had a lot more opportunity to get something out of 200 grams. In the end, I had like 200 grams of worsted weight yarn, and I really didn't know what to do, because in the end, I really ended up liking the color a lot. Sadly, I washed the yarn. I had a little bug problem. I'm making a project log for this actually, and there I will go into it a little further, but I had a little bit of a bug problem with one of the skeins, and because I was quite like scared, I washed the yarn and it lost quite a bit of color with the first wash, so I'm a little bit sad about that. But in the end, the bug problem kind of wasn't as bad as I thought, so lucky there. I talk about it more in the project vlog, but yeah, the colors were a little bit more vibrant. I think I preferred it that way, but I rather have a more a less saturated Sophie hood, but one without bugs. So yeah. Anyways, as I said, I'm a little bit more than halfway through, and I think I will finish this quite soon as well. I was very surprised how quick this went, but I am making quite a big effort to be more of a monogamous knitter again. I started out being quite monogamous and I miss it, so I only have 1 or 2 projects on the needles at a time. I know I said I have 3 whips, but I will get to that in a minute. But yeah, I'm really liking how this is turning out. The only thing, this yarn is quite rustic, and yeah, as I said, I only had 200 grams out of this. I actually quite liked how this looked in a little stockinette swatch that I did, and I would have loved to have a garment out of this yarn, but I just really didn't have enough, and I really am trying to not buy any yarn this year until I get through some stash. I say while I'm contemplating like buying a yarn advent. But yeah, really would have liked this to be a garment. Oh, but in the end, I think this, like, out of all the patterns that I have saved, this was the only pattern I could have possibly gotten out of 200 grams, like 400 meters of worsted weight yarn. I also had to do like the smallest size, like this size small. I would have preferred to do the medium, but that would be impossible. So, but I'm actually really liking how this is turning out, and I think sometimes projects just have to be good, that they don't always have to be perfect. Not everything has to be perfectly as you envision it. Sometimes taking like deviances, is it the right word? Makes for really great products as well. As for my last work in progress, it's quite small. I actually started this before I started the Sophie hood. This was my first cast on after Japan, but I ran into a little bit of a problem. This is the yarn is Daruma Geek, which is a Japanese yarn which I bought in Japan. This was my souvenir yarn from this trip, and for the longest time I wanted to knit the Regolith hoodie. I think. No, I really don't want to say the wrong designer's name, but it's a pattern that was in a Daruma 2022 collection book, I think. And for the longest time, you could only purchase the whole book to receive the pattern, and it also only sold like physical copies. So I wasn't able to get like my hands on the pattern. But then, not so long ago, the pattern was released as a singular, like standalone pattern, and I saw this Daruma Geek yarn everywhere in Japan, so I saw it as a kind of sign to buy the yarn for the pattern that I have saved in my favorites from almost the time I started knitting. So I really wanted to do this hoodie, but it is on hold right now. I did not frog it yet. Maybe I will have to. So apparently Daruma Geek comes in 2 different size balls of yarn, and this was a very big problem for me because I checked multiple times how much yarn I will need, because I can't get that easily here in Germany. And that's why I checked it multiple times, as I said. And for my size, I needed right in between 9 to 10 balls of the Daruma Geek. So I bought, just to be safe, I bought 12 balls of this yarn. This is, by the way, the color 12. This yarn is like this chain net yarn with the Daruma Geek has very like interesting colors. So for this one, I think this is even a new color released last year. This is a quite bright yellow, almost neon yellow chain net, but with like this burgundy brownish fiber blown through it. So it does give quite a nice contrast. And the yellow is kind of, you can't see it. It gives a little bit of interest, but it's not so punchy. Yeah. And in the end, it turned out that I bought 12. So in the end, it turned out that they are like basic 50-gram balls. So the pattern calls for 9 to 10 balls of 50 grams. And I bought 12 balls of 30 grams. So in the end, I'm almost 150 grams short, which is a lot, as you can see. Yeah. So I just realized this hoodie is knit like bottom up and in pieces and then sewn together. And this is like only the ribbing for the first half. And I did like one swatch. And this is how much I have left of the first yarn, like ball of yarn. So when I got to this point, I was like, I realized immediately I will not have enough yarn. And that's why I checked like another time how, like, if there are different size balls. I just never thought of that. And yeah, so I almost gave up on this and just kind of frogged it. But I do sometimes help out in a cafe, and my boss from that cafe, she's really nice. And she actually is visiting Japan right now for a couple of days, and I asked her if it wouldn't, like, just only if it's not like any hassle at all, if she would be able to kind of bring back more of the yarn. So she said she will do it, but I know how like travel gets, so it can get quite stressful, especially she isn't staying a long time. So if I'm really lucky, my boss might actually bring me back enough yarn so I can finish this hoodie. But until then, this is on hold. I also started doing a project log for this. So if you ever see this pop up again on my feed, you will know that I got to it. And yeah, just a side note, for this pattern I also had to go up one needle size as well. I only swatched for stockinette, but I am knitting the stockinette part on 7mm needles, and even on my 7mm needles I was a little tight, especially in row gauge, but it will be fine. I'll make it work as I always do. So yeah, these are all the projects I finished and am currently working on. As I said, I do have quite set plans. I think I will only kind of brush over the next 3 projects probably that will get cast on. Like, as I said, if I get the yarn, maybe, I'm not sure if I will continue with this immediately if I get the yarn, because this is quite warm yarn, and if it gets too warm too quickly, I won't be able to work on this. My hands get quite sweaty quite easily, and then I just can't knit with wool. So I will have to switch to more like summery yarn and crochet and stuff. So not sure if I will be picking this up immediately. I think that's it. The sun, I hope the lighting isn't too bad anymore. I hope the lighting didn't turn too bad. But that's also everything I wanted to talk to you about today. Coming back skyrocketed my knitting mojo, obviously, but I don't have a lot of time don't have as much time to knit right now, so I kind of really like to focus more on like 1 or 2 projects at a time, because I still get a little bit of like satisfaction out of the progress. Because if I would have worked on 5 things at a time, everything progresses quite slowly. And if I also don't get a lot of knitting time, everything progresses even slower, and that would just demotivate me at this point, I think. And yeah, I'm also quite excited about doing the project vlogs. Really hope that I will get them to a point of to a level that I'm satisfied with. I don't know, I'm just babbling on right now. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know. Either leave a like or a comment down below if your summer knitting plans or spring summer knitting plans are set. Mine are quite set this time around, because not only like summer knitting, but generally I just want to get through my yarn. And that's what I also already planned like the project for most of my yarn. So now I'm just picking and choosing what project I want to start next. I also am dabbling a little bit more into sewing, and I really want to start sewing, take sewing more seriously this year. I will also pick up crochet sooner or later again. So I will sprinkle a little bit of that in here, like in the podcast as well, just the finished. I think in the podcast I will just include the finished objects, but as I said, I am also working on like crafty vlogs, and there you can see more of the things I get to, because I do have way too many hobbies. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye bye.